What's up, chat? Welcome back to the stream. It's Wednesday. We are becoming wacky once again today. Early morning stream because I was I'm in my pajamas. I'm a cozy little boy. We streamed a game over on Twitch super duper late at like 2 a.m. It was super not the play because I played like a goober and died. And turns out 4 a.m. Warhammer 40,000, not the easiest thing in the world to play. But it was good that we did that because as I was wrapping that up, we got this update to the Munitorum Field Manual, to Imperial Armor, to the Imperial Knights Index. Basically a full statistical rewrite of Imperial Knights to bring them in line with Chaos Knights, alongside new points values for both of these factions. We have, I guess, what I would assume are confirmations of Imperial armor availability for Chaos Knights, like retention of those units for Imperial Knights. It's a wild time, folks. So that's what we're going to be discussing today, is all of this insane number of changes that we just saw to these factions. So if we pop over to Warhammer Community, we'll see that obviously we got huge updates to all this stuff. Imperial Armor updates to both Chaos and Imperial Knights. That is Forge World units, so resin units for these two factions. There are Index Card, Munitorum Field Manual, and Balance update updates like represented, but I think that is, I actually don't know what's different there. I think it might be a removal of old, like, outdated change logs for these factions, but to my knowledge, nothing actually changed. I think that it's just that a lot of the balance updates got incorporated into the index itself, so they got removed. That one's a little bit weird. This kind of threw me for a loop, but I think it's important to note as well that we it may seem a little exciting that there's a Munitorum Field Manual update out of nowhere. It is only affecting the Knight factions. I think there was some scuttlebutt that we would also see some like hot fixes to Death Guard at the time that we are also getting these Knight updates. That's not happening. Death Guard will remain killing everyone for at least another couple weeks, it seems, unless that we get another update sometime in there. So that's what's going on. Let's dive in. I think I want to talk about Chaos Knights first before we dive in and talk about what changed to Imperial Knights, because we've already talked about the Chaos Knights, Codex and all that stuff. But it would be cool to talk about exactly what they have access to and their Munitorum Field Manual. So, let's first dive into the field manual. A lot of this stuff will carry over between the two factions because their points costs are relatively similar, but the tales, the discussion about sub 400 point super heavies is correct. Look at these glorious points values, chat. It looks good, man. Knight Abominants, it was rumored they would be 325. That's correct. Knight Desecrator at 335. Despoiler at also 335. Rampager at 335. The new guy, the Ruinator, at 350. Knight Tyrant, that's the Dominus Tyrant chassis, obviously, at 395. Sub 400 for a T13 body. Or I guess T12 now, but he has a million wounds. Pretty nice. We have all the War Dogs went down significantly. War Dog Brigands now coming in at 145, whereas they were 140, whereas they used to be 165. So down 25 points from their previous version. And this is kind of what we saw coming a mile away, where all of these data sheets have been reduced in effectiveness. In most instances, the Carnivore stayed the same because he's actually a little bit better than he was. If you don't count the battle line changes and depending on how you value the extra wounds and stuff. But all of them are like probably a downgrade, but at worst a side grade from their previous incarnation, and all of them are now much more affordable than they were previously. So you can take them more easily alongside these now cheaper Big Knight chassis. Wardog Stalker in at 140, and then we also see big introduction of the Forge World points values from the Imperial armor. So it was a huge question of whether or not these datasheets would remain in viability, whether they would retain access to them, and what their new points values and their stats were. And it looks like all of them have been rebalanced, and they are all looking so juicy. Hot diggity damn. Big ones, Cerastus Knight Atropos at 355. Cerastus Knight Lancer at 355. These things are down 60 points from the previous versions. Megara down to 345. Styrix at 345. So, looking pretty good for old Chaos Knights here. Now, it's important to talk about in the context is their Imperial armors. So what we want to do is hop over to Imperial Armor Chaos Knights. So they have their own independent Imperial armor documents now. They're no longer using like a weird version of the same document where they then like trade keywords. Now they have their own sets of data sheets. So we can talk about them independently. Now, I don't know what, if any of the abilities themselves have changed. I don't believe that they have, but we can take a peek through and look. Now, the Acastus, I don't believe changed at all. Asterius and Porphyrion, I think, are just identical, which is cool. They did just get... I guess they also changed. They didn't change points value either, so they just didn't change it whatsoever. They're just vibing. the big round boys. We also have Cerastus Knight's Lancer is the big one. He grants War Dogs in his aura assault. I don't believe that has changed whatsoever. That is indeed identical. Yeah. So I think for the most part, and this is going to be a lot of what we're talking about today, most of the changes here, and kind of similar to how the Chaos Knights faction came out, the changes are going to be to top line profiles. So it's a statistical change, but it's not a mechanical change. So none of their abilities, I don't believe, have changed. If somebody has any particulars that did, then I'm be happy to talk about them. But for the most part, I think that these are all, but basically the same, except for the new updates to their numbers. So the Cerastus chassis went down a toughness, like we saw happen to the Questoris Knights, down to toughness 11 from 12, but they got that extra wound count. So they went up to 28 wounds versus 25. Which I think is slightly smaller wounds improvement than we see for the Questoris chassis stuff. However, these guys retained their permanent 4+ invulnerable save. So if we're using them in detachments that can improve their survivability even further, so like in Infernal Lance or whatever, then these guys can be legitimately difficult to kill, even though their toughness characteristic has been reduced. If it's 6 Big Knights, Abominant, 5 between Rampager, Despoiler, or Desecrator. Jesus. Lords of Dread, man, it's gonna be wild. It's gonna be insane. Is 6 Big Knights good? I don't know. Is 6 Big Knights cool as fuck? Hell yeah. Makes me want to go back to playing like Chaos Demons and jumping Bloodthirsters into those guys, because it does feel like Knights are probably going to be kind of widely played for a hot minute here. All right, Cerastus Knight Lancer, he's around. Castigator, he's around. Grants War Dogs with ranged weapons, sustained hits 1 within 6 inches. First of all, I feel like it's important to mention that like these guys retained their abilities, but also I think in the context of the new abilities, the War Dog auras actually seem kind of sweet, especially because they can, unlike Bondsman abilities, right? You can stack these. So like if you have a Castigator and a Ruinator next to Wardog Executioner, for example, you can get sustained hits plus 1 AP, right? Targeting the closest eligible enemy. Plus, you're also like firing with the Castigator over there. So, like, it does feel like the Wardogs in the middle of a bunch of dudes buffing them with auras are actually going to be kind of sick. Repentia. They updated Nurglings and Demons to have a 5+. That was in the online index. These like unspoken changes. Did I miss that Nurglings had a 5+ invulnerable save? The index demons. That's why the online index is the gold standard, chat. The app is like so commonly wrong. Oh yeah, they do. That's new as of the March update or whatever. Actually, I think I totally glossed over that, but that's actually like kind of a big change. Did they have that in the previous version? I bet I did talk about it, and I just forgot. And I just haven't gone back. Survey says, oh. What the fuck? Wait, excuse me? So that wasn't a change. All right. So I was right not to talk about it. What the fuck? Nurglings got better. No wonder they went up 5 points. When did that happen? Because this is new index stuff. That's wild. Whoa. Nurglings have a 5+ invulnerable save? Since when, dude? That's crazy. Holy shit. Wait, that's like a huge update. How did that fly under the radar? That's not even noted here. Is it in the index card update? Nope. Just a stealth buff to Nurglings. What? That's... Excuse me? Repentia are 160 in the MFM and 170 in the app. Did that change as well? I doubt it, right? That's okay. Whatever. We're not going to talk about it. We're going to talk about Knights. We can look it up previously. Look it up elsewhere. Yeah. So let's move onwards through our friends, the Cerastus chassis. Cerastus Knight Castigator making his appearance. Cerastus Knight Acheron forces enemies within engagement range of War Dogs within 6 inches of the Acheron to take battle shock checks, but also he strips cover from people, but only after he shot them with a heavy flamer. So I don't know, or basically a flamestorm cannon essentially. Which means they might be dead, but it does give him a little bit of army support, although it would be cool if that was an ability that he could use with his heavy bolter, then shoot his flamer somewhere else. But still, I don't know, pretty okay, I guess. We have an Atropos, which is probably also getting +1 to hit, +1 to wound against big stuff, reroll hit rolls against Titanic or Towering units, which is sort of medium utility, I guess. It'll be good, actually, assuming that we do sort of run into a Knight meta here, because it does feel like these new data sheets are going to be really strong for Knights. So I don't know. Questor Knight Megara, he regenerates itself D3. Grants War Dogs assault within 6 inches. So basically exactly the same as the Cerastus Knight Lancer. Just doing the same thing over there. Questoris Styrix grants ignore cover to War Dogs within 6. So I think there's probably a build that focuses pretty heavily on like obviously Abominants can't benefit from the thing here, but Abominants and Executioners I think is what people are talking about to force battle shock checks on people. Getting access to an ignore cover aura is going to be kind of a big deal, especially if you don't want to play if you don't necessarily want to play a Ruinator, because they I don't know, seem kind of like oddly statted, like a medium infantry sweeper, which I don't know if anybody's really that excited about. He has the same Volkite profile that Abominants do, so he's basically just like a side grade from an Abominant. Although he has a more like I guess a more high impact melee profile. Does he get? Oh, so he can take a Siege Claw and a Rand Cleanser or a Chain Sword, and then his other one is the Volkite Gun. Now, I wonder if the Volkite Gun was always a not a 12-shot weapon. It was 9, so he did get an actual weapon improvement. He went from 9 to 12 to be in line with the Abominant profile. So he is just an Abominant for 20 more points, and you get an Ignore Cover aura. So you trade the Battle Shock ability for Ignore Cover for 20 extra points, and you get like what is ostensibly a better melee profile, I guess. It's kind of an interesting question of how you feel is better. Although the Chainsword's higher AP, although its sweep kind of sucks, so I don't know. The AP might be more valuable though. And then down here, Wardog Moirax is here, which still has the Heroic Intervention for free. I don't know if there's any actual datasheet improvements here. Looks like he is basically the same as he was before, which is a little bit of an awkward. He's like a kind of he's really in the middle. He's sort of a mid-weight range profile. The problem with these guys is always like low AP, but it seems like we are getting a lot of outlets for Ignore Cover and or for like AP bonuses. So it might be that this guy ends up being playable. It would be interesting if he had like an Overwatch for free or something, instead of just heroic intervention, because I think a lot of times what you want to do is play these guys for their range profiles. Because I know you're like maybe excited about the Siege Claw profile. I guess it's like strength 12, AP 3, D6 plus 2, so that's actually reasonable. But in a lot of situations, you want to heroically intervene to like get OC places. And these guys are OC 6 now. I don't know. Maybe it's fine. Compared to the other abilities from the other War Dogs, it seems kind of like low impact. But I don't know. That's neither here nor there. I guess is there may be some utility inside the War Dog detachment, maybe, because he is War Dog keyworded, so he gets all the bonuses. But I don't know. But big thing here is obviously that we get we're locked in to getting the Cerastus Knight profiles into our Chaos Knight lists, and they come in at a very reasonable points value too. So we can play some like weird stuff. Let me pull up my codex and we can see if we can like we can really quickly like prognosticate some wombo combos. I think everybody's like mostly excited. So Infernal Lance is like has some interesting plays, right? Alongside the big knight profiles, because we can give them a 6+ feel no pain. You don't necessarily need the 5+ invulnerable save, because most of the Cerastus and the like Megara chassis have baked in invulnerable save. At least the Lancer does. And then obviously all of the Mechanicum Knights have it baked in permanently instead of just being an ion shield. But plus 3 inches to move characteristic on a Cerastus Knight Lancer is kind of wild, right? So you can empower this dude for move 17. And then he's also granting assault to Little Knights, which can move 15 plus D6 potentially, which is pretty spooky. So I think that was one thing that we immediately sort of like pounced on from the get-go, but we weren't sure if you could take Cerastus Knight Lancers, and you for sure can. You can also, in Lords of Dread, you can give the Lancer advance and charge back with Throne Mechanicum of Skulls. It does seem like the These are upcharged from the, I guess from the Codex versions. Was it a once per game advanced in charge, just 5 points? You're like, I guess I will take that. Thank you very much. These do feel a little pricey. They're doing the thing that I was a little worried that they would do, where they make all of the enhancements for big knights like really expensive. But on the flip side, it does seem like the knights themselves are so affordable that you probably can just eat the cost, right? It's like basically it's like an ally unit or a war dog worth of points to just like equip all of your knights with enhancements. And that's probably worth it because of the utility you get. So we could get advance in charge, or fights first, potentially. We can give like a Cerastus Knight to Atropos, an up-down. Base save characteristic of 2 might be nice on some of these guys. Mirror Fates I think is fucked, and I don't know if that changed. I bet it didn't. That's probably going to need to get an FAQ, because I believe that it's borked at the time of recording. You can also Blessing of the Dark Master those guys. So you could have, if potentially, this... Do you run like triple Cerastus Lancer in this detachment? That actually seems amazing. Because you can have like, it's all on a 4+ invulnerable save. You can have stealth at a 0 save. You could have advance in charge on a different guy, and then potentially you could also have fight first on another guy. So like you can get him in and charge with him, and then if your opponent comes back, he just like fights first and sweeps their unit out. It's actually like horrifying. Because he's difficult enough to kill that most of the time you have to shoot a Lancer and then charge it to actually get rid of it. But if you could just give yourself fight first and then kill them, whereas a lot of the other knights will just go down to the shooting anyway, so your opponent's not that worried about it. Yikes. Yeah, the stratagems, I don't know if have any particular synergy, but we can like -1 damage in any of this stuff. It does feel like Lancers might be the name of the game for this attachment. It also gives you a lot of aggressive stuff that you can use the free Obsec strat on. And then you take like 2 shooting knights and like maybe a war dog and call it a day, which feels amazing. 5+ invulnerable save doesn't say anything about shooting, but most of the knights have invulnerable saves that say against ranged attacks only, for example. So the reason that the 5+ invulnerable save is relevant on those is that they don't have an invulnerable save against melee attacks. The difference is that if we look at some of these Cerastus Knight profiles, so for example, the Cerastus Knight Lancer is a permanent 4+ invulnerable save against everything. And I think that is the case for the Castigator. So the non-shielded guys, I guess, have melee attack only versions. But traditionally the Questoris, the Mechanicum Questoris, yeah. So the Styrix and the Megara have permanent invuln saves against every attack. So those guys, they have like an adamantic shield instead of an ion shield, I guess. So it works against everything. Those guys will get the benefit of that in melee. So the Infernal Household Pact to buff your survivability has like differing levels of benefit based on who you're using it on. And so some of these guys will get a lot of use out of it, but things like the Lancer may not necessarily. He like potentially eats mortal wounds to just become an Imperial Knight for a turn, which I don't know if you're that excited about. Although buffing his movement speed is going to be wild, because he's going to go sicko mode and just launch himself across the table. So that's horrifying. I'm scared. Oh boy. So that's Chaos stuff. If I was a Chaos Knights player, I would be psyched, dude. Just getting the, like, first of all, getting confirmation that you can play these data sheets is huge. Also, those data sheets all going down like 60 to 90 points is wild. Wardog Moirax is 150. He's more expensive than all the other Wardogs. I don't know if I like that. I don't know about that chance. Wonder if Acheron and Castigator will be more viable with points changes. I mean, definitely, I think with the points changes, they for sure are. They're the less flashy of the two. or of the trio, I guess, or the quad, the quattro, the quartet. Because like everybody's excited about Lancers and Atroposes. Acheron seems like totally fine. Like ignoring cover is kind of sweet, but you're like I said before, you're shooting them with your big gun, so like I don't know. But a lot of units are just dead at that point already anyway. I think Castigator is probably pretty reasonable. Sustained hits 1 on your War Dogs is pretty sweet. Although it's another one with like weird abilities. We talked about this a little bit with like some of the other Questoris chassis knights, where like they feel like it doesn't feel like they necessarily understood what they wanted them to be doing. Like the bolt cannon profile is really good, and especially if you can source like if you can source, it's like twin linked, and if you can source +1 to wound from the army ability, that's great. And if you can strip cover from something, or grant an AP bonus, like it actually gets pretty strong. I'm talking myself into this night, by the way. I don't know where we would get that in a place that's really cool. Without just like taking a whole ass Acheron to strip cover from people, I would love to have some sort of synergy that gives that guy an AP bonus. But I don't know where we get it, and I don't think we will. Yeah, it's all +1 AP in melee, it seems like, for most of their synergies. But even so, I think having like a high volume twin linked weapon with an availability for +1 to wound is kind of a big deal. The weird part is that like this ability is basically nothing, because if you're shooting at a non-vehicle, non-monster unit, you're hoping it just dies. So like, I don't know if I really care that I've rolled, you know, that it's -1 to hit after I've rolled 18 bolt cannon attacks into it. And then its little leadership ability is actually very relevant. So I actually think a Castigator probably sees some play. And he's 355. Is that's the number? Yeah, 355. He went down 90 points. Because when they bondsman for Imperial Knights, they were actually super broken previously. And in the Index Hammer, and so they went up a ton of points, and now they just don't have any of those synergies, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, I mean that's a very reasonable points value, I think. Does this make Knights the best faction? I wouldn't go that far. I think it makes Knights it pushes Knights from being like kind of like fringe playable to being in contention for extremely strong. Oh, chat, you know how you strip cover from people? Is you take a fucking burning chariot. Oh, you can take demons, I forgot. You can take demons on any of these. And you get an infiltrator unit of blue horrors, and you get a burning chariot, and then you just like wander that dude around and then like auto hit strip cover from people and then kill them with a Castigator gunshot. Ooh! If you want to get super spicy, you could also take skull cannons, because they shoot things and force battle shock checks. I don't know if you like. That's at this point. That's getting to be a whole night worth of extra value, but I don't know. Not looking forward to having to tech all your list to be able to handle them. Yeah, it's definitely going to be like we're pushing to an armor cracking meta for sure. Man, I was enjoying Tyranids so much. We don't have to throw them away because I don't know if they kill these. I don't think you run into 6 Imperial Knight or Chaos Knights, I think you just die. Whoa, what a skew! Hot damn. Neat. Should we talk about Imperial Knights, chat? Anything else we want to talk about with Chaos Knights? Lancer is 430 right now for Imperial Knights, says -65 on the points list, but it's actually -75 compared to current. Yeah, that could just be a copy and paste error. Yeah, it is correct. That is correct. Taking Nurglings and Beasts of Nurgle might actually be pretty decent. Yeah. I agree, for sure. But the other weird part is that, like, I don't know, it kind of ruins your skew a little bit, because they can just, like, send all their like infantry killing into your allies and then call it a day. versus like shooting them into knights that like literally don't even give a shit. So I don't know. You win some, you lose some, I guess. All right, chat. So we also have updates to Imperial Knights. I guess we should talk about their datasheet changes. Look at all of these numbers that went down, Imperial Knights players. Hot damn. So if we take a peek at their index, so most of the stuff in the top of the index didn't change. All of the changes like previously to their army abilities and stuff have been implemented. So we see the new super heavy walker rule, where you can walk through walls. We see the reroll, hit roll, wound roll when you lay low the tyrant or whatever. None of this stuff has changed. At least to my knowledge, I went through all of these abilities and the stratagems beforehand, and I don't think anything is different than it was previously. But if somebody did pick up on any changes, then they obviously let me know. What we did see, however, were changes to the profiles. So their top line has been updated to be representative of what we see in Chaos Knights. So instead of being T10, they are now T9 with 14 wounds. They're OC6 instead of OC8, so a little bit less skewy than they were before. They are, however, and this is important to note, still battle line, at least for the time being. So you're going to still be able to take a million of them, unlike Chaos Knights where you're restricted. Obviously, the difference being that Chaos Knights have a million different versions of them, so they have more options to take War Dogs than you have options to take Armigers anyway. So it didn't matter. It didn't matter so much. You don't see minus 100 MFM very often. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the breadth of points cost reductions here are wild. Now, one thing that I am a little bit sad about is that, and maybe this will carry over to the new codex, the Reaper Chain Cleaver, the weapon profile on this thing has always made me chuckle a little bit because it's really bad. And I understand that most of the damage from an Armiger Warglaive comes from its thermal spear, but it's weird to me that outside of maybe, if like we're being generous, the Armiger Moirax, there's no melee like carnivore equivalent War Dog or Armiger for Imperial Knights, because the Armiger Warglaive is like whatever a stalker, I guess, or a huntsman with extra steps, right? And their melee profile always kind of, I don't know, felt like wildly underpowered. The amount of damage that they do in melee is actually like just tremendously bad. That's probably fine because they're cheap and their ranged attack is really good, but it's weird to take a unit called a Warglaive and take it specifically for its ranged profile. And I kind of wish that this wasn't quite as pushed as it is, this profile right here. Obviously, they reduced the range down to 18 from 24, which in my opinion, I think is a good change. I think that the push for the Thermal Spear was way too hard in the Index version. Like a Melt of 4 out to 12 inches felt kind of abusive, especially when you have floating rerolls for these guys. But it's sad that it didn't get... There's no updates to their melee profile, because the melee profile has always felt really bad to me. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Obviously, most of the stuff didn't get updated, didn't get changed significantly anyway, so whatever. Best melee profile for the small ones? Yeah, +2 strength, +1 attack. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, is like, the 4 attacks base feels like so silly to me, because it's not like, oh, it's 4 attacks, but each one of them's like really impactful. Like the Moirax, right, is like AP 3d6 +2 damage on 4 attacks, and you're like, oh, okay, now we're talking. Plus you get an underslung flamer, and this guy comes in and he's like, I'm like a quarter of a plasma cannon. You're like, okay, you might kill a Terminator, cool, and then you just get the crap kicked out of you on the swing back and you die. So I don't know, it's just funny. You can get Lance on them from Knight Paladin Bondsman ability. Knight Errant grants Assault. I don't think any of these have changed. But I can verify real quick. Yeah, nothing has changed here. Knight Gallant gives you reroll charges and reroll hit rolls in melee, which I think is also the same. Honestly, I very rarely saw these guys, so it doesn't, like, I actually have no idea what their bondsman abilities were because these dudes are essentially never played. -1 damage from the Knight Warden. Who remembers when Wardens were everywhere in 9th edition? Yeah. That's like such a powerful bondsman too, and you just never see this guy because his like profile's all over the place. He's got the cool Avenger Gatling Cannon profile, but like, all right. I'm not exactly hurting for like medium infantry clear in my Imperial Knights list. I kind of just like need to be able to shoot a tank to death maybe. And they're like, no. A Lancer? Gladiator Lancer? I will do nothing and die. Like, cool, thanks Warden. You're the best. Also, like, for whatever reason, it's like devastating as non-monsters knight vehicles. Like, I guess we're buffing the infantry sweeping, I suppose. +1 to hit from the Knight Crusader. You'll have to see it. This guy's actually kind of sweet because he gets the sustained hits when he gets like basically sort of heavy, pseudo heavy. If you are playing the Adeptus Sororitas like package, right? The Sisters of Battle with the Immolator package. The Knight Crusader actually goes kind of hard because AP2 ignore cover on the Gatling Cannon against non-T12 targets, and AP1 ignore cover on the Battle Cannon is actually kind of legit once you can strip cover from people, especially once you get sustain 1. So this guy's kind of cool. I do maybe like him a little bit. Knight Preceptor is still here. +1 leadership, +2 OC. That's fine. Castellan still grants a benefit of cover. I don't think any of the profiles have changed in any of these things from the Chaos Knights Codex, so I think these are just identical previously to what they were. I love that this dude has like the Warlord Titan treatment where did the Valiant always do this? Actually, never. It's been so long since I've seen a Valiant on the table. Yeah, he's the same. He's got the Warlord Titan treatment where after your like 400 point like super death machine targets you with a ranged attack, you have to take a battle shock check. And you're like, well, I'm probably dead, so does that matter? I guess you could like flip your Siegebreaker cannons into something and force a battle shock check on them, but it's not like the battle shock check matters that much. This would actually maybe be an okay ability in the Chaos Knights, but in Imperial Knights, it's like really misplaced. And I don't think Chaos Knights have any similar effect because they just have the Omni Scrambler Aura, yeah. So it's a bit weird. And then Canis Rex, I don't think has changed whatsoever. He still slaps like a big, scary dude. Look at him go. So the big changes here, obviously, were points characteristics. Canis Rex went down 70 points to 380. That's actually horrifying. I'm scared. They didn't change any of their ally mechanics, right? The Free Blades ability is still in there. Yep. So every army that allies a Canis Rex just went down 70 points. Are we gonna see like the all walkers like Grey Knights list back, where you just take like 6 Dread Knights and Canis and then call that a day? That could definitely like see some play. I don't know if there are any other factions that necessarily super need Canis Rex right now, but just the fact that we may see him on a lot of tables for basically super cheap is going to be horrifying. If there was a single knight in this codex that I don't feel like needed to go down any points, it was probably fucking Canis Rex. Knight Castellan down to 395. That's actually a little scary for like Mysterious Guardian plays, because he's one of the spookiest guardians to like hop around, because he's very difficult to avoid. Sometimes like you can avoid the like Crusader drops on things that he can't like necessarily kill in one go, or even the Atropos with Mysterious Guardian, but the Castellan with Mysterious Guardian at any point could just one-shot you with a Volcano Lance, and you essentially just always have to live under that like shadow the whole game. Plus he retains T12. He used to be T13, now he's T12, but he has 1 trillion wounds. So like, that's probably fine. And with a base 2+ save, he's hard enough to kill. 28 wounds. And with a base 2+, he's hard enough to kill. Oh, no, he went to a 3+. Just kidding. Less good. All right, I understand why he's significantly cheaper now. So that's actually not quite as good. But still 28 wounds with C12 is hard enough to kill that like your opponent has to overcommit to kill him. And for only 400 points plus an enhancement, like he can be really weird to engage with. So I kind of like the idea of this guy potentially in a lot of these lists. Sororitas make good use of Canis. Yeah, Sororitas have like so much internal synergy now that I think a lot of times they're just pushing for more sisters into in the army. But I don't know. We'll see. Let's see. Knight Errant. Crusader down to 365. Errant down to 345. Gallant down to 345. Paladin down to 345. I don't know if you're that excited about any of these, to be honest. Valiant at 395. Honestly, that guy could maybe go down a little bit more, but I don't know. Knight Warden, paying the cost of his really good bondsman ability, 365 currently. And then we got a 10-point cost reduction on the Porphyrion, like randomly. I don't know where that came from, but Acheron at 365. Atropos at 365. All right, so were these in the Cascadator at 365 minus 100 points? Jesus Christ. So the previous Acheron version was 425. Yeah, so these went down 60 points. But the Chaos Acheron was 420. So he did go down an extra 5. Or an extra 10, right? He's 355 now. The Chaos one's cheaper. They are. They're 10 points cheaper. And probably because they have auras, not bondsman abilities, which I guess GW is valuing higher. That's fascinating. Well, let's talk about the Imperial Knight Munitorum. Or, excuse me. I clicked on the wrong button. The Imperial Knight Imperial Armor. Because we can talk about the abilities that these things have. Now, most of them have not changed. They just got their top line profile changes. Asterius, Porphyrion are identical. And then we move on to the Cerastus. Lancer. So it looks like top line's still the same. Lancer has not changed. Castigator has not changed. +1 AP to its bondsman and sustained hits 1. Might actually be kind of a spooky one for if you're playing like I almost said Executioner, Helvrin like builds. Like sustained 1 +1 AP on Helvrins is kind of sweet. Because you can also buff that with Squire's Duty so that you can get +2 AP. Now, it's interesting to me. Yeah, and then you could take Mythic Hero to give it to 2 separate units. So this ability, now that this guy is significantly more efficient, it's actually kind of sweet. Not to mention the fact that we did see, I guess we didn't see too many cost improvements for these guys, but they're already super cheap. So I feel like Castigator plays might be in our future if we're playing like the full Wombo combo to buff AP on these dudes. Plus, he's still got his good shooting already, too. Acheron can strip cover for people, but he's like kind of weird at it. Atropos has not changed. +1 to hit, +1 to wound if you're targeting Titanic or Towering. Might also literally be like the way to go if you're expecting to play the mirror match a lot, which you might. So, +1 to hit and wound for up to 2 units if you take Mythic Hero on an Atropos could be good. And then he himself is reroll, or excuse me, it's reroll hits and wounds, then +1 to hit and wounds to himself. So, yeah, I don't know. This guy might just still be the way to go. The Atropos, I think, is he's so keen at killing the things that you need to kill that it makes a lot of sense. Questoris Magera. Bondsman's for +1 strength and AP, targeting the closest eligible. That is not what the what the Chaos version does, right? Where did he go? This is Imperium stuff. I closed my datasheet. No, here we go. Oh no, he grants assault, right? In Chaos. Yeah, that's trash. If we could get +1 strength and AP on Chaos Knights, I think we'd be off to the races. We have a lot of like access to +1 AP in Imperial Knights, so like it's less of an exciting inclusion. Styrix versus Battle Shock checks, which nobody really cares that much about, and then Armiger Moirax is still the same. Honestly, significantly harder hitting weapon profile than the Wardog, Armiger Warglaive. Getting Armiger versus Wardog straight is gonna kill me. It's gonna be the death of me, because I can never do it correctly. Castigator with Emulator Enhancement can get +2 AP ignore cover. A Castigator with the enhancement. I don't know about that. I don't know where the other AP comes from on a Castigator, but maybe I'm a silly goober. Yeah, you can push the autocannons for Armiger Helvrins like kind of crazy, I think, now. I mean, you always could, but it was like so inefficient that you might as well just like call it a day and take more Armigers. But I think we're at the point now that like pumping like the Armiger profiles like super high is actually kind of sick. If you run the Castigator from Protonice's Squire's Duty, melts an Emperor's Children Demon Prince. Yeah, for sure. Whoa. Oh, plus a strat. Okay. Oh, on a Wardog. Yeah. You can, because you can Castigator them up. You can Squire's Duty them up, because you can do that to any number of Armigers, and then you can flip Emulator or something into them, for sure. Yeah, not on the knight itself, obviously, but on the Armigers that it's buffing, for sure. Seems good, chat. So I don't know. I'm a little horrified by Imperial Knights right now. Especially things like Canis Rex dropping like an absolute insane number of points. Like that's horrible. That's scary to me. And then we also see like obviously all of these other changes to the other knights. I do think that the Armigers. I'm not that surprised that the Armigers are not dropping, because I do think that like they sort of get passively better as you are incentivized to take more bondsman abilities. And I do think that like already they were like kind of over efficient on their points values, which is why you never saw any of the big knights anyway. And so being able to pack like an extra big knight into your list is going to like make the Armigers a little bit better by itself. But we'll have to see, obviously. But yeah, chat, that's what happened today. I don't know if I have anything else to say about these guys. Obviously, no huge shakeups to the codex, because we haven't seen any of their mechanics change. But it's going to be an interesting time to experiment with the faction for sure. I think if I was a Knights player, I'd be pretty hyped right now about being able to experiment with a bunch of new lists that can fit like multiple big knights in them, which is not really something that you could efficiently do previously. Does the Grot Mist attachment look more fun now? Oh, that's a great question. I know that like getting access to Skitarii was pretty cool. Questor Forgepact is the name of the attachment, right? Let's take a peek. Let's take a quick peek here. A review of Questor Forgepact. I'm actually going to shift my viewer over a little bit so it looks a bit nicer. Like the issue that I see is like the flat mortal wound reduction is like, or it just wound incoming damage reduction is like goes so far, especially now that the knights have a higher wounds count. So you get more chances to roll feel no pains before you die. So like the wounds count is like pretty nice for Noble Lance. So you get the opportunity to take Skitarii, but they lose Adeptus Mechanicus stuff, or Doctrina Imperatives, which is weird and sad because they forgot to write that you didn't need the Doctrina Imperatives in there, but it is what it is. You gain some buffs for Imperial Knights. +4 wounds is kind of nice, but it's just like hyper expensive. It's 30 points. Magos Questoris gives you lone operative when you're near Imperial Knights. That's like kind of cute because you can like stand next to armigers or whatever and gain it, which is like okay, I guess. And a leadership buff for Adeptus Mechanica stuff. Yeah, whatever. 5 up feeling against mortal wounds. Ignore weapon skill, ballistic skill, characteristic modifiers, and hit or wound roll modifiers. Lethal hits when your knights are destroyed for Adeptus Mechanicus models, but the models you can take are kind of limited, right? Ooh, laggy fucking thing here. Holy shit. Yeah, it's Skitarii Marshals, Rangers, Vanguard, type Priest Manipulus. It'd be interesting if you could take like some of the sillier units. Like if you could take like Rust Stalkers or something, or even like vehicles. I think it would be kind of neat, but playable. Assaults for ranged weapons, which we can access for like half of our Knights chassis anyway. I guess it grants your big Knights assault, which I guess is okay. Bonded Imperative grants grants Bondsman to AdMech. Yeah, I don't know. We're just buffing units that aren't that good. We're buffing units that are good at holding objectives and not necessarily good at doing murders on people. And then a Titanic Overwatch, which is the exciting part. I don't know if I'm that excited about this. I think the stratagems are better in Noble Lance, to be perfectly honest. Like, getting access to more chaff is cool, but like we have so much play with Imperial agents now. Or at least like that see play fairly commonly inside Imperial Knights. Like, I don't know if that's that transformative to the faction. So I don't know, Chant. It doesn't seem to me like it's that great. I do wonder if there's like a weird break point where regenerating damage on your guys is like a little bit better because you have a greater wounds pool to begin with. So there's the chances that you have like wounds remaining are better. But it doesn't feel to me that getting with the equivalent of like an extra 4 at 0.5-ish wounds on your chassis because of a 6+ feel no pain, that doesn't feel like it's that much better than simply, like healing something potentially if it survives is strictly worse than just ignoring the damage when you take it initially. So I don't know. Lancers might be the new Warglaves. Yeah, I think Lancers being cheaper is honestly a little bit spooky. I myself, for one, welcome our new Cerastus Knight Lancer Overlords. Where's that fucking guy? Did I just like skip his British sheet? Castigator, Lancer. Yeah. It does feel like, I don't know. It feels like Big Knights may just end up morphing into like a combination of Cerastus, Lancers, Castigators, and Atropos, because they have the most well-rounded profiles for sure. Like if you need anti-tank guns, the Atropos is like basically the best thing. If you need melee, the Lancer is basically the best thing, or survivability if you're stacking survivability buffs. And if you need infantry sweep, or honestly synergy with your Little Knights, the Castigator is the best one. So these Lancers, they gonna be everywhere, chat. Get your anti-Lancer technology ready. You need AP1 ignore cover, high volume, to punch through them eventually. But even then, like the high wounds count actually might make them a little bit. The Lancer's like in such a funny situation because the thing that's good, they're gonna take more damage from, which is like las cannon profiles. The Lancer cares the least about because it has a baked-in 4+ invuln. So getting more wounds to protect it from high volume, like low impact shooting is actually sick. Because this guy like very often just died to like 1,000,000 AP1, like lethal hits or whatever. So like 3 extra wounds in exchange for a toughness feels like a downgrade, but for this guy in particular, it might actually be better. And then also he's like 70 points off. What the fuck? Oh man. It's gonna be wild time, chat. Wild time. Funny how they reset the points cost for Cerastus chassis. Yeah, that's it. That definitely doesn't feel like it's correct. You know what I mean? Like, is that right? Did you guys do that right? Like Lancer versus, I don't know, Acheron? It's like one of these things is not like the others. I think that Acheron's as good as a Lancer, G-Dub. I don't know if I agree, sir. Having an invuln save all the time and significantly better melee in exchange for, and being faster in exchange for like having a flamethrower, I guess, that you can't Overwatch with. It's like, all right. I guess the Acheron is like better army support, but not that much. It's an interesting decision. Anyway, chat, that's what I have to say about Knights. I think that's what I came here to discuss. So I think we'll probably give it a bit of a wrap up there, folks. Woo! What a time to be alive. Hot damn. Twin Gatling gun guy is sexy? Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's the Castigator. That thing was like hyper broken in Index, and then when they changed bondsman abilities, everyone just forgot it existed. But it's just been like it's been hanging out for a while. It's been waiting. It's doing the Mass Effect like 2 Reapers thing at the end of the game. You know, it's just hiding in the spaces between galaxies, ready to jump back in and take over. Firing 18 twin-link shots. Let's go. Knight's good. I think Knight's gonna be good for sure. Ooh. Anyway, folks. That's it for me for right now. Thanks everyone for watching. I'm gonna go sleep, I think, because I haven't been to sleep yet, so that's good. I'm certainly going to be live later this evening with some well, I don't want to say this evening. I will be live later today with some games. I'm trying to like work out a Tyranid list that I want to play. but there's like a non-zero chance I just audible and like play like beat stick Chaos Demons so I can fight these fucking Knights profiles. So I don't know. I don't know what to do, chat. The meta keeps shifting on me. I can't decide on a list to play. But yeah, we're doing some competitive like testing later today over on Twitch. So please come hang out with me for that. Otherwise, I was going to work on a video, but this is eating a little bit of my time, so maybe that will be delayed even further. So I have a couple of getting started videos that I haven't yet done. But now that we have points for Chaos Knights, maybe we can talk about getting started with Chaos Knights. Actually, it would be kind of interesting. I don't know. Whew. Anyway, folks. Don't play Tyranid datasheets. Yeah. Well, for sure, don't play Tyranid datasheets when you are when you have had no sleep in like 28 hours. That's certainly definitely not the way to win. Don't play a hyper complex Tyranid detachment with a million moving parts when you are wildly sleep deprived. I can tell you that for sure. As I live stream one of the worst games of 40k I've ever played because of my own mistakes. I was a fucking moron. Anyway, but also don't play Tyranids. No, that's okay. New Tyranid detachment's cool. Although it does seem like, I mean, the fact that it wasn't like blowing things up this past weekend, I think it had a good win rate in terms of like holistically, but not a lot of people were like winning events with it. It does feel like it actually might put Tyranids into a spot where they like kind of want to be. I go back and forth on whether or not I think it's broken. It feels like when it's working, it's broken. And then if your opponent knows what they're doing, it's actually just like dog shit. Which a lot of people, I think, said when it came out, and they're like, people are just going to screen this. And for the most part, that does work. There's a little bit of like counterplay that you have to build into it, but I don't know. I guess, interestingly, Tyranids might have a little bit of an easier time with the new Knight chassis, because Tyranids have like a trillion very relevant Strength 6 profiles, but they don't have quite as many Strength 7, and so Knights, for the most part, going down to T11 is actually very good for them. So like melee warriors are like way better now and stuff. I don't know. Maybe it's fine. Maybe I'm just maybe that's a pipe dream. We'll see. Feels very matchup dependent. Yeah. And the goal for like list building is to make it less matchup dependent, but it does feel. I don't know if I've ever felt quite as impacted by specific terrain features as I have with that detachment. Because like the geometry of where models get placed and how they charge and stuff depends very much on like where your your opponent's individual models get placed. So if you have very specific terrain features that can prevent movement around things, it's like really weird. So I don't know. New Trigon Prime is nice for yeah, because he's winning on 4s. But Force is like awkward. 5's twin length. That's where things are exciting. Which is new Ravener profiles, right? So, but I don't think the hyper adaptive trade into them very well. How much damage does a full hyper adapted brick with 5 Raveners do? If you are, I don't want to unit crunch it right now, but just doing math. They basically hit on 2s reeling 1, so they should basically full convert. 15 attacks from Raveners plus 18 attacks from the hyper adapted, so 33. And about 50% of those convert when you're twin linked and reeling 5s, so like say like 32-ish or 16-ish wounds. Your opponent saves a third of them and then ignores a sixth of them. So you do like a 17 damage. Math does not look great. I don't know. Ooh. Anyway, folks. Yeah, the anti-vehicle 5-up actually doesn't matter, though, because you win on 5s anyway, so... It only matters against, like, Land Raiders now. This is wild. What a weird metagame we're about to enter. Imperial Knights taking damage from, like, mid-strength attacks? What a time to be alive. Alright, folks. I am going to go to sleep now because I am tired. So thanks everyone for watching. Keep it classy, folks. Have happy wargaming. I will talk to you later today. Goodbye, everyone.